My life began at the exact same moment my family's luck turned. The day I was born, the land our family owned was suddenly rezoned, and overnight we had enough to build 3 new houses. My father, who had been unemployed for what felt like an eternity, also managed to secure a stable job through a lucky referral. But in my family, sons were treasured while daughters were not, and they were utterly convinced that all this good fortune was brought by my twin brother Leo, who had been born just a few minutes before me. Believing he was their lucky charm and I was nothing, they sold me to human traffickers. It wasn't long before those traffickers were arrested in a police raid. A young boy who had been tied up beside me in that dark room took my hand and led me out into the sunlight and towards a massive, elegant house, telling me that from now on, this was my home. In an instant, I had an older brother who was part of a powerful and wealthy family, and my life changed forever. My brother Leo and I are fraternal twins. He came into the world only a few minutes before I did, but that short span of time was enough for him to claim all the love and attention our family had to offer. It all started on our birthday when the news came about the rezoning of our property. Later that same day, my father, who hadn't worked in ages, was riding his bicycle when he accidentally collided with a thief who was running away with a stolen bag. The owner of the bag appeared just at that moment, and out of immense gratitude, he offered my father a well-paying job in the city. By the time my brother turned 2, our family had moved into a brand new house in the city, with 2 other properties left over to rent out, providing a steady stream of income. Around the same time, my grandmother's chronic leg and back pain, which had plagued her for years, miraculously vanished. She was suddenly able to walk downstairs every day to do her morning exercises with her friends in the public square. Everyone insisted it was because of Leo. He was, they said, our family's lucky star. Even a wandering fortune teller we met on the street took one look at my brother and declared he was destined for immense wealth and a great future. My mother was so overjoyed she handed the man a $100 bill. I tugged on her sleeve and curiously asked if I was also destined for greatness. Before the fortune teller could even part his lips to speak, my mother shot me a harsh look and snapped, "You, a money-losing, worthless girl? You want wealth and greatness? Just focus on not ruining your brother's good fortune." Her words made her own eyebrows furrow with a new worry. She turned back to the fortune teller. "Master?" she asked anxiously. "She won't spoil my son's luck, will she?" The fortune teller quickly reassured her. "Don't worry, your son's fortune is powerful. He won't be affected." Despite his words, my mother gave me strange, suspicious looks the entire way home. It was the same glare she used to give our neighbor, Mrs. Wang, when the decorative gourd she'd hung on her door for good luck went missing. She was convinced Mrs. Wang had stolen it out of spite. Before we even stepped through our front door, my mother grabbed my arm and said fiercely, "You are not allowed to go near your brother anymore. Stay away from him. Do you hear me?" I was confused by her sudden command, but I nodded obediently. That night, my mother cooked Leo's favorite meal, braised pork. My grandmother sat beside him, holding his rice bowl and patiently coaxing him to eat. She didn't even get upset when he sloppily spilled rice and sauce all over her clothes. "Our little lucky charm is so full of energy," she cooed. I squatted in the corner of the kitchen, watching the shiny red sauce drip onto my grandmother's blouse, and I couldn't help but swallow hard. My stomach rumbled with hunger. My brother happened to glance over and see me staring. The next day, my grandmother discovered that the leftover braised pork had been nibbled on, likely by a mouse. But Leo immediately pointed a finger at me and shouted, "It must have been her. I saw her looking at it yesterday." "Aha!" my grandmother screeched, her face contorting with rage. "So you dared to steal food? Is that something you're allowed to eat?" She grabbed a nearby broom and swung it at me. I instinctively dodged, and the broom whistled past my head. The force of the swing made my grandmother stumble forward, and for a terrifying second, I thought she was going to fall. I quickly wished with all my might that she would be okay. In the next moment, her hand shot out and gripped the back of a chair, steadying herself. But the look she gave me was even more frightening than before. "You dare to dodge? See if I don't beat you to death today." She raised the broom again and this time began hitting me with all her strength. I didn't dare to move again and just curled into a ball on the floor, my body aching with every strike. Beside us, my brother clapped his hands and laughed with delight. My tears, which I had been trying so hard to hold back, finally streamed down my face uncontrollably. Eventually, my grandmother grew tired. She threw the broom down with a clatter. "You little thief, this will teach you a lesson. If I ever catch you stealing food again, I'll break both your hands. Do you understand?" she panted. I nodded, trembling all over. Without another glance at me, she took my brother's hand. "Sweetheart, didn't you say you wanted some chicken? Grandma will take you to get some, okay? We won't eat that dirty meat. Our little Lucky Charm can't eat things that are dirty." My brother immediately brightened up and tugged her towards the door. "Fried chicken, let's go get fried chicken." I lay on the cold, dusty floor, watching my brother's pristine white sneakers bounce past me, kicking up a small cloud of dust that settled on my face. As a punishment for my supposed crime, my father locked me in the dark, cramped storage room when he came home that night. "I work myself to the bone at the factory all day, and you're at home stealing things," he grumbled, his voice thick with frustration. "You're the reason my luck has been so bad lately. You'll stay in here tonight and think about what you've done." With a loud bang, the door slammed shut, plunging the room into complete darkness. From outside, I could faintly hear my parents arguing. "It's all your fault for having such a useless daughter," my father yelled. "You're having a bad day at work, so you take it out on me. I'm the one who gave birth to Leo, you know," my mother retorted. Suddenly, my brother's voice cut through their bickering. "Be quiet! I can't hear the television. What's all the fuss about over a girl? You're disturbing Leo." It was my grandmother's impatient voice. "If you ask me, we should just sell her. It would be one less mouth to feed, and we could use the money to buy more things for Leo. Besides, with her around, Leo's good fortune is being diluted. Who knows if she'll end up sucking our family's luck away and giving it to someone else." I leaned against a stack of cardboard boxes in the corner, my body already numb from the earlier beating. Hearing her words felt like being struck all over again, and I couldn't help but clench the fabric of my thin shirt tightly in my fists. "Buying and selling a child isn't that simple, Mom. Don't say things like that anymore," my father's somewhat irritated voice replied. His words brought a small sigh of relief from my lips. At least my father didn't want to sell me. To prevent my grandmother from ever suggesting such a thing again, I became even more obedient after I was let out of the storage room. I learned to be invisible. I swept the floors, mopped, cleared the dinner table, and ate only one small bowl of plain rice at every meal, making sure to lick every single grain clean. My parents were terrified I would steal my brother's good fortune, so I stayed as far away from him as possible. Every single day, I secretly wished for our family to become more and more prosperous, hoping it would make them happy. And gradually, my family members did smile more often. They would frequently buy Leo all sorts of delicious snacks and fun new toys, always remarking that it was all thanks to him that they had encountered some good luck that day. But whenever their gazes landed on me, their smiles would instantly vanish, replaced by frowns, as if they had just seen something repulsive. I would quickly lower my head in fear, trying to disappear. One afternoon, my brother ran in from playing outside, fuming. He stormed over to me and started punching me. "You're not my sister. I don't have an ugly sister like you," he yelled. My mother, who was in the kitchen cooking, rushed out. "What's wrong, Leo? What happened?" My brother gave me one last kick and pointed at me. "The other kids are making fun of me. They say I have an ugly monkey for a sister." "Mom, I don't want an ugly monkey sister. She's so ugly, how can she be my sister?" Okay, my sweet boy. If you don't want her, Mommy will send her away. Don't be angry, all right?" She soothed him. "Mommy!" I cried out, my body trembling with fear. But my mother paid me no attention at all. My terror grew, and I could only try to work even harder, to do every chore perfectly, and to eat even less food, hoping it would be enough. I was horrified to find, however, that they seemed to frown at me more and more often. Soon, the mere mention of my name was enough to make their faces darken. "You, come here," my dad called out to me one evening when he came home from work. I studied his expression carefully as I timidly walked over to him. He stared at my face for a long moment, then bent down and rubbed my cheek with his rough hand. "Why are you so dark? Have you been washing your face?" A wave of pure panic washed over me, but faced with his direct question, I could only nod obediently. "You're back," my mom said, coming out from the bedroom. She paused for a moment when she saw the two of us. Then, as if remembering something, she asked my dad, "Did you find someone?" "I found them. They're waiting outside," he replied. My mother looked at me, her eyes holding a complicated expression I couldn't decipher. She suddenly reached out and stroked my head. "Let me change her into some new clothes." "Women are always so much trouble," my dad grumbled. "Hurry up and change her. Don't keep them waiting. And while you're at it, wash her face properly. Make her look clean. She was born at the same time as Leo. How did she turn out so different?" My mother ignored him and pulled my hand, leading me toward the bathroom. For the very first time, she gently washed my face and helped me change into a new set of clothes, treating me with the same care she usually reserved for my brother. My fear grew with every gentle touch. "Mommy," I pleaded, my voice shaking. "I'll be good. I'll listen to you from now on. I won't fight with Leo for good luck. I can even give all of my good luck to him. Please don't abandon me, okay?" At first, my mother gently wiped away my tears, but my crying soon seemed to irritate her. "What good luck could you possibly have?" "All right, stop crying now. Your face will have been washed for nothing." After saying that, she roughly wiped my face one last time and pulled me outside, pushing me in front of my father. "Bring back a bottle of soy sauce when you return. We're almost out. Leo wants to eat braised pork ribs tonight." "Got it," my father said. He looked down at me, and I couldn't help but take a fearful step back. He reached out with both hands and picked me up. "You be good now. Don't cry and don't make a fuss. Daddy is taking you to an uncle's house to play, okay?" he said, his hand covering my mouth. I didn't dare to nod, but I also didn't dare to disobey. He carried me downstairs and into a narrow alley where a car was parked. A portly man was sitting in the driver's seat. He glanced at me with an air of disdain. My father spoke to him in a fawning tone. "Don't mind that she's a bit skinny. She's a hard worker." He then looked at me, his eyes filled with a clear threat. I lowered my head and said nothing. "This kid—" "Well, all right then," the portly man said. "Let's stick to the price we agreed on." He reached over, grabbed a black bag from the passenger seat, and tossed it into my father's arms. My dad opened the bag and peeked inside, his face immediately breaking into a wide, joyous grin. "Good, good. She's all yours now." He turned to me. "You have to be good and listen to this uncle from now on. Understand?" "Daddy," I asked, holding on to a final, desperate shred of hope. "Are you really not going to want me anymore?" "Daddy's just taking you to this uncle's house to play for a while," he lied. The portly man laughed. "Why are you telling her so much? One sip of water and everything will be fine." As he spoke, he held out a bottle of water towards me. I instinctively grabbed my father's clothes, trying to hide behind him, but he held me firmly in place. I couldn't move. I could only watch as the man's face got closer and closer. He pried open my mouth and poured the water down my throat. Soon, my vision began to blur, and then my consciousness slowly faded away into darkness. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying on a cold, hard floor. Around me sat several other children, all around my age. When they saw that I was awake, they just gave me a brief, empty glance before lowering their heads again, their faces completely wooden. I shrank back in fear, taking in the unfamiliar room, which was lit only by a tiny sliver of light coming from under the door. My tears, delayed by shock, finally began to stream down my face. "Daddy, Mommy," I whispered into the silence. Suddenly, a hand appeared in front of my face, using its own dirty sleeve to wipe away my tears. "Don't cry," a soft voice said. I turned my head and saw a boy who looked a little older than me. His face was covered in several dark bruises and bloody scratches. The moment our eyes met, he looked away uncomfortably and his hand froze in midair. "Thank you," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Just then, the loud sound of a key turning in a lock echoed through the room, followed by the creak of the door opening. Before I could react, the boy instantly scrambled away from me. The same fat man who had taken me from my father walked in. His fleshy face crinkled as his eyes swept over us, and he grinned unpleasantly. "Being good, isn't this much better? Everyone except you, dog boy. Come and get something to eat." I clenched my fists, watching as the other children went forward one by one to receive a piece of food. In the end, only the boy and I hadn't moved from our spots. Oh, and you, little girl. The fat man's gaze landed on me. I remembered his face getting bigger and bigger just before I passed out, and my body couldn't help but tremble. Wasted a whole dose on you. You can have half of this, he grumbled, tearing a single steamed bun in half and tossing my piece onto the dirty floor before closing and locking the door again, plunging us back into near darkness. The cold, hard bun lay on the ground, half covered in dirt. I stared at it, clenching my hands tightly. The sounds of the other children chewing filled the quiet room. I bit my lip, but eventually, the gnawing discomfort in my stomach became too much to bear. I reached out, picked up the bun, brushed off the dirt as best I could, and took a small bite. The dry bread scratched my throat. I suddenly remembered the boy who had tried to comfort me and carefully glanced in his direction. To my surprise, our eyes met again. He looked away in a panic, but not before I saw him swallow hard as his gaze lingered on the piece of bun in my hand. I looked down at what was left and carefully tore it in half again. I held out one of the smaller pieces to him. He kept his eyes fixed on the bun but didn't reach out to take it. I extended my hand further towards him. Eat it, I urged. The boy looked away. If they find out you gave me food, you'll get beaten too. Why don't they give you any food? I asked. Because I tried to escape, he said quietly, and I bit one of them. You're so brave, I couldn't help but say in awe. What's so brave about it? The boy hung his head. I didn't even succeed. But you bit them, and you tried to run away, I whispered, inching closer to him. I never even thought of doing something like that. He looked a little surprised. You don't want to escape? I thought about it for a moment and then shook my head. I don't know where I would run to. My mommy and daddy don't want me anymore. How could your parents not want you? He said, his voice rising with disbelief. Don't listen to the traffickers. They're all liars. You can't believe anything they say. Your parents must be out there looking for you right now. But it was my daddy who gave me to that fat uncle, I said, feeling lost and confused in the face of the boy's strong reaction. At the same time, I felt a pang of envy. His parents definitely hadn't abandoned him. The boy fell silent. After a long while, he finally said, Don't be sad. I didn't know what to say to that and just felt my eyes getting scratchy again. I held out the piece of steamed bun to him one more time. Here, eat this. This time he didn't refuse. He took the small piece from my hand. When my parents find me, you can come home with me, he said suddenly after taking a couple of bites. My head involuntarily turned towards him, but he wasn't looking at me. He was just staring down, seriously eating that tiny piece of bun. For some reason, I was absolutely certain that what he had just said wasn't just my imagination. Okay, I said happily. Thank you, big brother. I couldn't help but scoot even closer to him. The future, which had seemed so dark and terrifying just moments before, suddenly seemed to have a glimmer of hope. We'll definitely get out of here, he said, his voice full of conviction. You'll definitely see your parents again. After a few more moments of silence, a soft came from beside me. I bit off another tiny piece of the steamed bun, a secret smile playing on my lips. That small piece of bun was our only food for the day. I don't know how much time passed after that. I was leaning drowsily against my new brother's shoulder when the loud, creaking sound of the main door opening broke through my sleepiness. I instinctively clutched his sleeve in fear. He, however, gently pushed me aside. Quick, go over there. Don't let him see you with me, he whispered rapidly. But in the next second, he froze. There are 8 kids in here, a man's voice called out to someone outside. Then he looked at us and spoke in a much softer voice. Don't be afraid. We've already caught the bad guys outside. As he spoke, he pushed the door wide open, and a brilliant shaft of sunlight streamed into the room, making us all squint. It's the police! The police are here to save us! Someone shouted. The bad guys have been caught! A wave of cries and shouts instantly filled the small room. This is great! We can go home! My brother exclaimed happily, grabbing my hand. I smiled up at him, my own heart filled with joy. Seeing that we had all been starved for a long time, the kind police officers gave each of us small bread rolls and cartons of milk. After we had eaten our fill, they began to gently ask us if we remembered where our homes were or how to contact our parents. I remember! My brother was the first to stand up and say, "My mom's name is Eleanor Chen." The other children, emboldened by his confidence, also started talking one after another, sharing names and addresses. I just sat quietly, fidgeting with a small lint ball on my pants, a sour feeling growing in my heart. A policewoman noticed I hadn't spoken and walked over to me, crouching down to my level. "Little girl, what's your name?" she asked gently. I remained silent, focusing all my attention on the small lint ball I had picked off my clothes. My name was just a simple, dismissive word: girl. Compared to the carefully chosen, beautiful names of the other children, mine probably didn't even count as a real name. "Officer, she's my sister," I suddenly heard my brother say. "You can just contact my mom." The sour, sad feeling that had been building inside me instantly vanished. I looked up at him, my eyes wide. So this is what it feels like to have a brother? This feeling was really, really nice. A wide smile spread across my face, as if I had just eaten the sweetest piece of candy in the world. That night, my brother and I were put in the same temporary room at the station. As we lay in our separate beds, I quietly asked him, "Big brother, will your mom like me?" "My mom, she'll definitely like you as much as I do," he said confidently. "When we get home, you can live in the room right next to mine. I have lots and lots of Legos I can let you play with, and race cars and video games too. And if you like to eat, the kitchen at our house can make anything you want. My mom doesn't like me eating food from outside, but if you want to, I can ask our butler to secretly buy it for you, as long as mom doesn't find out." Listening to my brother's excited plans, I slowly drifted off to sleep. That night, I had the most beautiful dream of my life. In the dream, my brother really was my brother, and we lived together in a huge, magnificent house that looked like a princess's castle. The house had building blocks made of colorful candy, race cars made of rich chocolate, and all sorts of other delicious, wonderful things I couldn't even name. There were fun toys everywhere. When I woke up the next day, it felt like the sweet taste of those dream foods was still lingering in my mouth. I turned to look at my brother, who was sleeping in the bed to my left, but I saw that a woman had appeared in our room at some point during the night. My heart leaped into my throat. I quickly looked around and confirmed that this was still the same room we had fallen asleep in, and I let out a small sigh of relief. Since the police officers had let her in, she probably wasn't a bad person, right? I looked at the woman who was sitting by my brother's bedside with her eyes closed, seemingly asleep. I was a little scared, but also a little curious. Could she be my brother's mom? I don't know if my staring disturbed her, but her eyelids twitched a couple of times, and then she slowly opened them. When her eyes met mine, she paused for a moment. Then a warm, gentle smile spread across her face. She smoothed out the wrinkles on my brother's blanket where he had pressed them down and walked lightly to my bedside. "You're awake," she whispered. "I'm Alex's mother. Are you hungry? Is there anything you'd like to eat?" When we were in that little dark room, I had heard my brother mention that Alex was his name. I clutched the blanket in my hands and lowered my head shyly. "I'm not hungry," I mumbled. But just then, my stomach let out a loud, embarrassing growl. My face instantly flushed hot with embarrassment. I couldn't help but glance up to peek at Mrs. Chen's reaction, only to be caught by her gentle eyes. She suppressed a smile. "Can you eat seafood?" she asked. I nodded lightly. I had never eaten seafood before in my life, but I assumed I should be able to, right? I thought uncertainly. Mrs. Chen seemed to notice my hesitation. "Never mind," she said kindly. "I'm hungry too. Let's have some mushroom and vegetable congee together, okay?" I had eaten congee before. I nodded my head quickly. "Mom?" Just then, my brother's sleepy voice rang out from the other bed. "Alex, you're awake!" Mrs. Chen turned around in surprise and rushed over to her son. "How are you? Are you uncomfortable anywhere? Do your injuries still hurt? Are you hungry?" she asked, a flurry of worried questions. "Mom, I'm fine. I feel great. It doesn't hurt at all," he reassured her. "How could it not hurt?" Mrs. Chen said, gently stroking the healing scratches on her son's face, her voice full of heartache. Alex let his mom fuss over him for a moment. Suddenly, he caught sight of me out of the corner of his eye. "Oh, right, Mom. Have you met my sister yet?" "I have," Mrs. Chen smiled. "Your sister is much more well-behaved than you little rascal. I was just telling her that we're having mushroom and vegetable congee for breakfast. Are you having some? A bitter expression appeared on Alex's face. Do we have to eat mushrooms? If you don't want to eat it, then you don't have to. I can't exactly force you, can I? She said, her voice teasing. Alex immediately grinned. Mom, you're the best. If you know I'm good to you, then try to give me less to worry about in the future. Alex chuckled, but then, as if remembering something important, he glanced towards the door a couple of times, looking like he wanted to say something, but was hesitating. There was an urgent matter at the company, so I had your father go take care of business first, Mrs. Chen explained gently. Alex looked disappointed for a moment, but he quickly perked up. Company matters are important. Dad should definitely go take care of business. Mrs. Chen smiled and patted her son's head, but I could feel that neither of them seemed very happy about it. Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. Can you come with me? After Mrs. Chen had ordered the congee over the phone, Alex glanced at me and then suddenly said this to her. He was clearly past the age of needing his parents to accompany him to the toilet, and the excuse was so flimsy that even I could see right through it. Alex seemed to realize this too, as his face flushed red, and he quickly ran into the bathroom. Mrs. Chen immediately followed him in. When the two of them came out a few minutes later, the congee had just arrived. The thick, fragrant steam filled the air as soon as the container was opened. A spoonful in my mouth was more delicious and comforting than anything I had ever eaten before. I've always wanted a daughter, Mrs. Chen said gently after we had finished our breakfast. But I just haven't had any luck. Ever since I had Alex, I haven't been able to get pregnant again. So, sweetie, she looked at me with kind eyes. Would you like to be my daughter? I had been looking forward to this moment with all my heart, but now that it was actually happening, I don't know why, but I hesitated. Alex, however, didn't let me hesitate for too long. He grabbed my hand and said excitedly, Of course she's willing. Right, sis? Looking into his expectant eyes, I couldn't help but nod my head. A loud cheer erupted from him, and he threw his arms around me in a hug. Great! From now on, you're really my sister. I was a little flustered by his sudden enthusiasm, but the genuine joy welling up in my own heart made me hug him back tightly. I looked up at Mrs. Chen and saw that her eyes were crinkling at the corners with a beautiful smile. How about we name you Annalise? She suggested. Annalise Chen. It means grace and favor. Our Chen family's precious new daughter. I shyly lowered my head, feeling a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the congee. Okay, Mom. Wow, your house is huge, big brother, I exclaimed, staring up at the 3-story mansion. It looked just like a princess's castle from a fairy tale, surrounded by a garden filled with flowers. It should be our house, Alex corrected me with a grin. From now on, this is your home too. He took my hand and eagerly began to show me around. This is the dining room, and that's the kitchen. You can tell Auntie Lynn, our cook, if there's anything you want to eat. This is the back garden. Mom often has afternoon tea out here. And this is your room, he said, opening a door to a large, bright room. But it hasn't been decorated yet, so for now you can sleep with me for a few days. Or with Mom, he added, a bit reluctantly. Then I'll sleep with you, big brother, so I don't disturb Mom, I decided. Alex instantly cheered up and pulled me into his room, where he began taking out a huge pile of toys and putting them all on the floor in front of me. The Legos, video games, and race cars I told you about before, he announced proudly. Let's play together. I looked at them all with wide, curious eyes. My former brother, Leo, had similar toys, but he had never once let me touch them. I picked up a colorful Lego brick. How do you play with this? I asked. Alex immediately launched into an enthusiastic demonstration, and the afternoon passed by in a happy blur of building and playing. That night, Alex decided to fulfill his earlier promise of having the butler secretly buy me snacks. We tiptoed down the hallway with the forbidden treats the kind butler had given us. As we passed Mom's room, we suddenly heard her angry voice coming from behind the slightly ajar door. Work, work, all you ever care about is work. What work could possibly be more important than Alex? And what about tonight? Why didn't you come back tonight? Understand you? How else am I supposed to understand you? If you don't want to come back, then just don't. Go marry your work, you jerk. Alex's head drooped, and he didn't say another word all the way back to his room. Brother, don't be sad, I said, awkwardly trying to comfort him. How about we eat this fried chicken leg? I've never had one before. I've had it once. Alex's voice sounded muffled from his pillow. Dad had his secretary buy it for me. I thought for a long time about what to say. Was it good? I finally managed to ask. It was pretty good, he admitted. Then, Big Brother. Should we eat it now? I asked, holding up a crispy chicken leg. Alex looked up at the chicken leg for a long moment. A little while later, we were both lying on his bed, rubbing our full stomachs. I know Dad isn't intentionally not coming back, he said quietly. He has a lot of work to do every day. But I still wish he could come back more often to spend time with me. Brother, your wish will definitely come true, I said, looking at him with all the certainty I could muster. The next morning, when Alex and I went downstairs for breakfast, we saw the back of a man sitting at the dining room table. Alex turned around and hugged me tightly. Annalise, Dad, he really came back, he whispered excitedly. I looked up and my eyes met those of Mr. Chen. He had a stern face, but his eyes weren't unkind. A gift for you, he said, his voice deep and formal. You can call me Dad. He handed me a beautifully wrapped box. Alex, who had already torn the wrapping off his own gift to reveal a new robot model, leaned over my shoulder. Quick, open it and see what it is. With everyone watching, I carefully opened the box. Inside was a cute doll wearing a delicate pink dress. I love it, I said, hugging the doll tightly. Thank you, Dad. Mm-hmm. Dad nodded, his expression still somewhat stiff. Mom nudged him with her elbow. Why the long face? Give the kids a smile. Dad glanced at Mom and then forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. Dad still doesn't look good when he smiles, Alex whispered to me. I knew they must have heard him because they both looked over at us. All morning, Alex was in a great mood, constantly pulling me over to talk to Dad about his toys and his friends. But unfortunately, just before lunch, Dad had to leave again in a hurry. Throughout the meal, Alex ate in complete silence. In the afternoon, however, Dad's secretary brought shocking news. Dad had been hospitalized. Mom, Alex, and I rushed to the hospital as soon as we heard. What happened? How did he suddenly lose consciousness? Mom asked anxiously as we hurried down the hallway. The vice president hasn't been sleeping much lately, so he couldn't hold on this afternoon and passed out, the secretary explained. But it's not entirely a bad thing. This isn't a bad thing. Then what is a bad thing? Mom cried, her voice cracking. I told him not to work so hard all the time, but he would never listen. Now, look at what's happened. Ma'am, please don't get agitated. Please listen to me, the secretary urged. The doctor said it was fortunate that this fainting spell brought the vice president to the hospital. That's how they discovered he has a brain tumor. It's benign and it's treatable. But if it had been discovered any later, the outcome would have been much more difficult to predict. Hearing the words brain tumor, Alex's hand tightened around mine like a vice. Thankfully, the secretary quickly finished his sentence, and I felt Alex relax a little beside me. Even so, Dad remained unconscious for a whole day before finally waking up. After he regained consciousness, he recuperated for a few days and then went into the operating room for surgery. The red light above the operating room door was shining brightly. Mom tried to persuade Alex and me to go home and rest, but we both refused. We sat together on the hard bench at the entrance of the operating room, waiting. Dad will be okay, right? I whispered, holding Alex's hand. Dad will definitely be okay, he replied, though his voice trembled slightly. Another 3 hours passed. Just when each of us felt like we were about to turn to stone from sitting so still, the doors of the operating room finally swung open. The surgery was very successful, the doctor announced with a tired smile. But post-operative care is still very important. He needs to maintain regular rest and a proper diet. Okay, we'll definitely pay attention, Mom said, tears of pure joy streaming down her face. The next day we saw Dad lying in his hospital bed, looking pale but awake. Mom was feeding him congee while also gently lecturing him. I promise I won't stay up late anymore, Dad said. I want to spend more time with you all. Although his face was still mostly expressionless, it somehow seemed much gentler than before. Not just staying up late, but also smoking and drinking. You have to quit all of it, Mom insisted. Dad readily agreed to everything. Alex and I looked at each other and both broke into relieved smiles. Alex and I stayed at the hospital for 2 more days before Dad and Mom sent us home, using the excuse that we needed to catch up on our studies. Alex was busy trying to finish his summer homework and also had various tutoring sessions and training classes to attend. I was a bit better off. I only needed to catch up on the school lessons I had missed. But Alex quietly told me that the lessons I was catching up on were already for the second or third grade, and I was only supposed to be starting second grade after the summer vacation was over. We really are siblings, he had said with a grin, both just as smart. But even though studying wasn't difficult for us, Alex and I were still overjoyed to hear that we were finally going to go out and play. And this time, both Mom and Dad were taking us. Although Dad had been coming home almost every day since he got back from the hospital, this was the first time he was taking us out just for fun. The night before, Alex was so excited he couldn't sleep and ran to my room to talk to me until well past midnight. The next day, Alex woke up yawning constantly, but he still insisted on sitting by my side and giving his opinions while Mom had me choose a dress to wear. How can you play games in a dress that's so long? This one isn't as pretty as the last one. Won't you be too hot with so many layers? This one. This one. Half an hour later, Mom playfully kicked him out of my room. Why didn't I realize he was so annoying before? She laughed, then took out 3 brand new outfits from the closet. Annalise, do you like any of these? I looked back at the mountain of clothes already piled on the bed and, amidst Mom's own hesitation, decisively chose a simple and comfortable outfit. Finally, half an hour later, we walked out of the room. Alex ran over immediately. Annalise, you look so pretty in this, like a little princess from a fairy tale. Then I'm the prince, he declared proudly. All right, our little prince, Mom said, smiling. Can you take the little princess to breakfast now? Yes, Your Highness. Alex gestured with a theatrical bow and pulled me towards the dining room. As I sat down, a servant brought over the breakfast I had chosen the previous day. After we finished eating, the driver took us to the amusement park. It was already bustling with people, but Alex, holding a set of fast-pass tickets, quickly led me on a wild playing spree. With him as the most professional amusement park planner, we didn't have to worry about waiting in long lines at all. By noon, the sun was high in the sky. Mom used a tissue to gently wipe the sweat off both of our faces. Want some ice cream? She asked. Yes, I want strawberry flavor, I cheered. I want cantaloupe, Alex chimed in. Dad was sent by Mom on the mission to buy ice cream, and Alex went with him to make sure he got the right flavors. Because I had had so much fun running around in the morning, my braids had come loose. So Mom undid them completely to rebraid them for me. However, at that very moment, someone suddenly rushed over towards us. You jinx! So this is where you were hiding. It was my birth mother. She was wearing a worn-out janitor's uniform and holding a large broom, and she looked much thinner and darker than I remembered. Her protruding eyes were bloodshot and glaring at me with pure hatred, as if she wanted to bite me. I was so scared I flinched back, but in the next second, Mom pulled me protectively into her arms. Meanwhile, 2 large men in black suits who seemed to appear from nowhere stepped in front of my birth mother, blocking her path. She couldn't break free, so she started cursing loudly at the 2 men. You're a jinx, a troublemaker. Whoever gets involved with you has nothing but bad luck. Your dad's in jail, why don't you just go die? Mom quickly covered my ears, but the horrible things my birth mother had already said were etched into my mind. Mom wanted to take me and leave immediately, but because of my birth mother's loud yelling, a crowd of curious onlookers had started to gather around us. Mom, holding me tightly, couldn't get out for a moment. Don't be afraid, Annalise. Don't be afraid. Mommy's here, she whispered soothingly, her voice tight with suppressed anger. You're our family's most beloved little girl, the luckiest one. But then, my birth mother started shouting to the crowd, Everyone, come quick and see. The rich people are bullying others. My poor husband didn't do anything wrong and he got thrown in jail. I finally found my missing daughter, but she won't even acknowledge me and is letting these people bully me. Everyone, you be the judge. Do poor people just deserve to be bullied like this? Someone in the crowd muttered, Rich people really are no good. Another added, "That woman looks so pitiful." See? That little kid is wearing all designer brands. Tisk tisk. Who knows where all that dirty money came from? That woman is dripping in gold and silver. She's probably no good either. Listening to the surrounding discussion, a fire of anger ignited in my heart. They didn't know anything at all. What right did they have to scold my mom? "Annalise, don't be afraid. We'll just—" "Mom," I said, clutching her clothes, "I have something I want to say to her." Although I didn't explicitly say who she was, Mom understood instantly. She looked worried. "Then Mommy will carry you over there, okay?" she said, still concerned. "Don't take anything she says to heart. Not all parents are qualified to be parents." "Mom, I'm fine," I said, feeling a new strength. "I'm not an uncared for child anymore, so I won't care about those words." We moved closer. "Your husband is in jail because he sold me to human traffickers," I said, my voice clear and steady. "You didn't want me, so now I don't want you anymore." Just then, a woman in the crowd also spoke up. "Hey, I suddenly remember now. Isn't she that weird mom from our neighborhood that my mother told me about?" "What weird mom?" someone asked. "Their whole family favors boys over girls," the woman explained. They were so afraid the daughter would absorb the son's good luck that they actually sold the daughter. The video of her husband being arrested by the police went viral in our neighborhood group chat last year. That woman was crying and making a huge scene next to him, trying to stop the police from taking her husband away. My mom said their son was always chubby and well-fed, but the daughter was pitifully thin. You wouldn't even think she came from the same family. Anyone who saw it said it was a sin. No wonder the little girl doesn't want to recognize her mom. Her current mother obviously dotes on her. I immediately nodded in agreement. My mommy loves me very much and is very, very good to me. She's not a bad person at all. She's the best person in the whole world. My birth mother, flustered by the crowd's murmurs turning against her, instantly flew into a rage. "You ungrateful brat! Who are you calling mom? I'm the one who gave birth to you. Without me, where would you be? She's not a pig. Did a pig force you to give birth to her?" A familiar voice roared. It was Alex, charging out from the crowd like an angry little lion. "When she was sold to human traffickers, where were you? What right do you have to scold her?" Behind him, Dad walked calmly through the crowd, holding 2 ice creams. He handed one to me, then turned to a park staff member who had appeared and said coolly, "Is this your amusement park standard of service? Letting your staff point at customers and curse at them?" That staff member was speechless, but a man in a sharp suit who had just rushed to the scene immediately began to apologize profusely. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Chen. It's all our fault for not managing our employees properly and for disturbing your visit. Please rest assured we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation." Dad just instructed coldly, "Then give me an explanation." The man in the suit wiped the sweat from his brow and glanced at my birth mother. "She has seriously violated the amusement park's employee code of conduct. We will terminate her employment immediately. The other employees present who failed to intervene in a timely manner will have their current month's bonuses deducted. Are you satisfied with this arrangement, Mr. Chen? Why are you firing me? What did I do wrong? Is it wrong for me to discipline my own daughter?" My birth mother shrieked, sitting on the ground and starting to wail. But the manager didn't even pay her any attention. He waved his hand and 2 security guards moved to forcibly drag her away. "I was wrong! I was wrong! Manager, please don't fire me. I still have a son and a mother-in-law to support at home. I can't lose this job. Please give me another chance." My birth mother seemed to finally realize her mistake, shouting and even trying to grab the manager's arm. But the security guards gave her no chance and quickly dragged her away. The manager then addressed the crowd. At the time, I saw that she was a single mother raising her son and mother-in-law, and it was truly a pitiful situation. So I made an exception and hired her, even though she didn't meet our hiring requirements. I am truly sorry for the unpleasant experience this has caused for everyone. Here are some small gifts we've prepared as an apology. We hope everyone has a fun afternoon. The people who received the small gifts all said it was okay, and some even started cursing my birth mother, saying it was all her fault. The defeated look on my birth mother's face as she was dragged away and her previous ferocious expression replayed in my mind. I also thought about the way those people in the crowd had so quickly agreed with her lies before. I didn't understand why they changed their minds so quickly. Dad patted my head and told me, because they don't care about the truth or what's right or wrong, Annalise. They only care about what benefits themselves. I sort of understood, but I knew this matter wasn't completely over yet. A day later, Mom received a call from Grandpa, asking her and Dad to bring me and Alex to the old family house to see him. It was then that we learned that the incident at the amusement park had been filmed by someone, twisted into a different story, and posted online. Everyone was cursing Mom and Dad for being rich bullies. Mr. Chen, Mrs. Chen, I beg you, please give me back my daughter, my birth mother wailed pitifully in the video. She claimed that Mom and Dad had stolen her child and brainwashed me into not recognizing her anymore. She begged them to let her go and give her child back. The comments section was a flood of hateful messages directed at Mom and Dad. How can they just make things up like that? I cried angrily as I looked at the horrible comments on Mom's tablet. Mom isn't like that at all. I wanted to call her Mom myself. Following the method I had learned from Alex, I started reporting the abusive comments one by one. If I couldn't get them removed, I replied to each one. Just as expected from someone from a wealthy capital family, truly a cut above the rest, huh? One comment sneered. I typed back, Mom and Dad are not stuck up at all, they're very nice. She's already calling them Mom and Dad, so if you have money, you can just call anyone your parents. Do your real parents know about this? Another wrote. Of course my parents know, I replied furiously. Mom walked over to my side with a platter of fresh fruit. Our little Annalise can even use complex sentences now. That's great, she said calmly. A small piece of sweet cantaloupe was placed by my mouth and I habitually took a bite. Only then did it register. Mom, aren't you angry? Angry? Of course I'm a little angry, she admitted. But these people scolding me online don't necessarily truly hate me that much. They might just be using me as an excuse to vent their own frustrations about their lives. Mom took the tablet from me, scrolled a few times, and then showed it to me. Look, there are rational people out there too. This one says, even if the girl doesn't recognize her, what kind of loving mother would scold her own daughter like that? On the other hand, that Mrs. Chen looks like she dotes on her daughter much more. It's just that with all these slanderous posts appearing at once, I wouldn't believe it if someone said nobody organized this behind the scenes. So our cute little Annalise doesn't need to be so angry. You have to believe that Mom and Dad will handle this. As she spoke, she fed me another piece of cantaloupe. But I still don't want you and Dad to be scolded, I mumbled while chewing on the fruit. I want everyone to know that you are the best parents in the world. 10 minutes later, someone suddenly reposted the official police announcement of my biological father's arrest and posted a detailed account of how I was sold from my home. Public opinion online instantly and dramatically reversed. I told you this woman was no good. Where are all those people who were cursing before? Why aren't they coming out now? If you have the guts, keep cursing. Alex read the new online comments and laughed out loud. Someone even said if there was a reversal in the story, he'd eat his hat. I'm going to go make him eat his hat right now. Saying that, my brother started typing furiously on his own tablet. Suddenly, he exclaimed again, Hey, someone said this whole thing was orchestrated by Vanguard Corp hiring fake accounts to smear us. He then explained to me, Vanguard Corp is Dad's company's main competitor. Recently, they and Dad have been competing for a huge project. If Dad's reputation was ruined, Vanguard might have been able to snatch the project away. So they hired people to say bad things about Mom and Dad? I asked, horrified. Exactly. They're so mean. Bad people like them can never beat Dad, I said angrily. That evening, Dad came home and brought us the good news. Vanguard reaped what they sowed. Our company successfully won the project today. I just didn't expect that an assistant I've trusted for many years was actually working for them. Fortunately, he made a stupid mistake this afternoon out of his own panicked thinking. Otherwise, who knows how much longer it would have taken to discover that pest in our company. This is wonderful news. I'll have Auntie Lynn make a few more dishes tonight. Let's celebrate, Mom said happily. That night, the dining table was piled high with delicious food. Mom even uncharacteristically let Dad have a couple more glasses of wine. Speaking of which, Dad said suddenly, looking at me. It seems like ever since Annalise came to our family, my work has been going much more smoothly. Before, there were always endless problems to solve. Now, most of them can be handled by my assistants and managers. I suddenly have a lot more free time. So, Annalise is our family's little lucky star, Mom said, putting a piece of my favorite sweet and sour fish in my bowl. Here, eat more. You're still too skinny. I happily accepted the fish, my heart feeling full. By the way, Mom said to Dad, your father called and asked us to find some time to bring Alex and Annalise back for a visit. When do you think would be a good time? For some reason, Dad's expression seemed to sour a little. The day after tomorrow. I have a meeting all day tomorrow. I secretly nudged my brother. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, Grandpa wants Dad to go into politics, but Dad prefers doing business, so they've been arguing about it for years. Last year, Dad's business ran into some serious problems, and when he went back to ask for help, Grandpa scolded him harshly. Dad got angry and hasn't been back to visit since. But don't be afraid. Even if Grandpa argues with Dad, he's always very good to us. You're so cute. Grandpa will definitely like you too. But even though my brother said that, I was still very nervous about meeting Grandpa. My nervousness only grew when we arrived at the grand old house, and Grandpa, with a completely expressionless face, called my name and beckoned me over. I carefully walked over to his side. He looked me up and down, and I couldn't help but tense up all over. Annalise Chen, I quickly answered, thinking he was confirming my name. Yes, he said. Take this. Don't tarnish the Chen family's name. He picked up a heavy, ornate box from the table beside him and handed it to me. This sudden turn of events caught me completely off guard, but I didn't dare to make Grandpa wait with his hand outstretched. I quickly took the box. Then, before I could say thank you, Grandpa turned to Dad and said gruffly, You, come with me. With that, he stood up and walked upstairs. Dad gave us a quick look and followed behind him. Suddenly, a pair of warm, soft hands rested on mine, guiding me to sit on the plush sofa. Don't worry, your father will be fine, said the owner of those hands, who I realized was my grandma. She took the box from my hand, opened it, and took out a beautiful gold pearl necklace. She gently put it on me. Your grandpa spent a long time picking out this necklace, she said with a soft smile. He insisted that gold pearls bring wealth and prosperity, and that it matches your new name perfectly. I thought such a big pendant would be tiring to wear for a long time, but looking at it now, your grandpa's taste is still pretty good. It looks lovely on you. I touched the heavy gold pig-shaped pendant that hung around my neck, feeling a little awkward but also deeply touched. There's also a card in the box, my brother said, taking the bank card out of the box and sitting down next to me. Grandma, how much money is in here? That, I don't know, she chuckled. You'll have to ask your grandpa. With my brother's cheerful interruption, I didn't feel so nervous anymore. Mom then asked Grandma what Grandpa had called Dad upstairs for. Grandma explained that Grandpa had been missing Dad for a long time but was too proud to admit it. As soon as he heard they had adopted a daughter, he couldn't wait to call them back to see her. Sure enough, when Grandpa and Dad came back downstairs, the tense atmosphere between them had clearly softened. When we left Grandpa's house that night, Grandma even told us to come back and visit them often. Grandpa, who was standing beside her, didn't say anything, but I could see the anticipation in his eyes. On the way home, I leaned against my brother's shoulder, dozing off. Suddenly, a familiar, desperate cry startled me awake. The car also slowed to a stop. Big brother, please, please, just let us in. My daughter is in there. I really have no other choice. I beg you, big brother. The cries continued to pour in from outside the car window. I looked through the window and saw a stooped figure kneeling on the ground, constantly begging the security guard at the gate of our neighborhood, while also pressing down on the head of the little boy beside him, forcing him to kneel too. I recognized them immediately. It was my biological mother and my brother, Leo. Unlike when I had left home, when he was always well-fed and dressed in new clothes, Leo's clothes were now loose and ill-fitting. The security guard at the gate noticed our car had stopped and sent someone over to explain the situation to us. My birth mother saw our car and immediately switched targets, dragging Leo towards us. Even though another security guard tried to stop her, she knelt directly in front of our car, hoping to beg the people inside to help put in a good word and let them in. But when the car window rolled down and Mom's calm face appeared, her expression changed. There was a fleeting moment of pure resentment in her eyes, but in the next second, she started pleading pitifully again. Mrs. Chen! Mrs. Chen! I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken ill of you online. I was wrong. Please, I beg you. Please let us go. My mother-in-law is bedridden, and my son is so young. Our whole family, young and old, we really can't survive anymore. Even if you don't do it for my sake, do it for the sake of my daughter. And her brother. My birth mother pressed down hard on Leo's neck. Leo, quick, say something. Ask Auntie to let us go. Leo's face clearly showed his reluctance, but he still couldn't break free from his mother's grip and was forced down, his eyes full of hatred as he looked at my mom. Even I could see what was happening, so how could Mom not? What daughter? Mom said, her voice cold and clear. She is our Chen family's Annalise. And as for your son playing with fire and burning down your own house, what does that have to do with our family? You should manage your own son properly. That's more useful than begging anyone. You should be thankful that it was only your own house that burned down this time. After speaking, Mom began to roll up the car window. Mrs. Chen! My birth mother still wanted to plead, but just then her phone rang. Please, please just give me some more time. I'll definitely be able to raise the money. My daughter is right here at her house. The Chen family is rich. Please just give me a little more time, she begged into the phone. Let's go, Mom said quietly to our driver. The car started moving again. As we pulled away, I heard my birth mother yelling from behind us, her voice filled with a final desperate greed. Give me $1 million, and the girl will be your daughter from now on. We'll definitely never come back again. Mrs. Chen, Mrs. Chen. Annalise, Mom said, turning to me with a smile. Your favorite cartoon is about to start. Let's hurry home, okay? My brother also took my hand. I can watch it with you tonight, he offered. Previously, my brother had always dismissed my cartoons as childish and refused to watch them with me. My mood, which had been heavy with the past, suddenly lightened. Okay, brother, you better not go back on your word.